Hello, it's me, Ariza Gaming, and welcome back to another episode of Sandbox Showcase, the series where I talk about problems in Oxygen Not Included and how you can solve them easily and effectively. So today, I want to talk about the Somnium Synthesizer story trait, which can be added to any of your runs at the start in the main menu. It's a feature that can appear on planets. It can appear on your starting planet, but it's not guaranteed. Here we've started on a flipped asteroid, and it's on the same asteroid as our printing pod, but sometimes you're going to have to get in a rocket or get in your teleporter and look for it. But more importantly, what does it do? So you can activate it with a duplicate, and once you've activated it, you need to do two things. You need to fill up a pipe with oxygen. It comes with a little gas pipe inlet, and the machine requires 500 grams per second of oxygen continuously to run. But to actually turn it on, you need to produce dream journals. You need to produce 25 dream journals. There's 25 little segments up here. And that will activate the machine. And once it's running, it will give your duplicants a permanent buff as long as it's running of +5 athletics, strength, science, piloting, and machinery. And it will lower their stress by -25% per cycle, which is very significant. It can completely counteract popped eardrums, for instance. And this doesn't affect only the asteroid the building is on, it also affects every other asteroid on the star map. So this combination of skill increases and stress reduction makes it very useful for setting up colonizing other asteroids across the map with new duplicants. It makes it a lot easier. However, here comes the question. How do you generate dream journals? Well, your duplicant has to be sleeping, and they have to be sleeping wearing pajamas, and they need to be sleeping a lot. They need to sleep for 300 seconds to produce one dream journal, and this machine consumes 10 dream journals per cycle. So the long and short of it is, you need 5 duplicants sleeping 24/7, non-stop, no interruptions, to actually constantly keep this machine active with dream journals. However, in practice, your duplicants aren't going to be sleeping all the time. They are going to need to get up to eat, they're going to need to go to the bathroom, and do other things. So, in reality, you're probably going to have 6 to 7 duplicants working, sleeping full-time to run this machine. So, it is quite a considerable cost. It's not always worth it. If you only have a small number of duplicants, having 6 duplicants sleep full-time to give your other duplicants a buff is not great profit. And it also does require plenty of oxygen, so you do need a way of generating a large amount of oxygen to get it to work. But if you have a large number of duplicants and you're thinking of spreading out across the star map, it can be very impactful. And I frequently use this a lot on my live stream runs on Twitch, because we often set up a big single base and then set up smaller bases on other asteroids. We always try and prioritize this if we have immediate access to it. So today, I'm going to show you how you can set up a sort of enclosed base where you can just have 6 duplicants survive, sleep, and do nothing else but generate dream journals in a closed, controlled environment. And also, I'm gonna build a SPOM here. We did a video about self-powered oxygen machines a while ago, but we're gonna hook one up and it's gonna keep these dupes looked after. And the reason why we're isolating them all in this case is because when the duplicants wear the pajamas, they get a -8 athletics penalty, which is very large. Your duplicants that are sleeping and nodding off aren't going to be very productive otherwise, even in their downtime. So we want to make sure they don't leave their little base and get trapped or stuck somewhere. So that's why we're going to isolate them. But yeah, let's begin. Let's just clear out some space. So, I've cleared out a fairly large amount of space. We're not really going to need all of this. But what we're going to do is we're going to put the base for the 6 sleepy duplicants on this side, and we're going to put the self-powered oxygen machine on this side. We're going to start with this because I don't talk enough about self-powered oxygen machines. They're very useful in keeping your duplicants alive. And I'm going to do the flooded approach that we've done in the previous video. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some insulated tiles down. The electrolyzers, when they process water into oxygen and hydrogen, it comes out at 75 degrees C. So you're going to want it to be sort of thermally isolated, so it's not heating up your duplicates by too much. So what we're going to do is we're going to put airflow tiles on the bottom. We're going to put 5 of them here in a little L shape. And what we're going to do is we're going to nestle an electrolyzer in here. And we're going to make this out of gold amalgam if we have it, because, as I said, the oxygen and hydrogen will come out at 75 degrees C. Other materials will overheat if you're not actively cooling it, and what I think you will probably do in this case is actively cool the base rather than actively cool all of this stuff. You're probably going to be feeding it with hot water, and that way the heat from the water is getting deleted as it's getting turned into oxygen and hydrogen. We talk more about this in the dedicated spawn video, but I just thought I'd mention it here again. And because the machine consumes 500 grams per second of oxygen, and each duplicant consumes 100 grams per second, we're going to need 1.1 kilograms per second of oxygen total. So we're going to need 2 electrolyzers. Each will produce a peak output of 888 grams per second. So we'll put them next to each other over here. We'll put some insulated tiles between them, and then that's going to seal them off. What we'll then do is we'll pour some liquids in here. It could be any 2 liquids that aren't going to boil. You could use a bottle emptier, you could use the pedestal method, or you can just get duplicates to manually move liquids or dump them in with vents. But you're going to want relatively small quantities of stable liquids. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to use salt water on the bottom. I'm going to put like 0.3 kilograms of salt water on the bottom, down here. And then we're just going to top it off with 0.3 kilograms of regular water on the top. So we'll just pull it in there. You'll see once all 4 tiles are full of liquid, it will form this sort of little shape, where it looks a bit like it looks like a thing that's sticking out. And if we unpause, you'll see you make sure to put the lighter liquid on top. That's very important. So now the electrolyzer is completely covered in liquids, but it's not actually flooded. If it gets flooded with the liquid mass being too high, it won't work. So we've got to make sure it's a low liquid mass. But now what will actually happen is if we put a tile here and a tile here, the gas from the electrolyzer will spawn on this tile. Because it's covered in liquid, it will actually get forced out either this way or this way. And because we're blocking off this tile, what that means is the gas will clearly separate, and the oxygen will go over here, and the hydrogen will go up here. And you don't really need to prime this to get it to work either. You just need to vacuum out the room so that there's no residual gases hanging around in here. So we'll seal this all off. While your duplicates are coming in here, you'll want to build some ladders and just get them wandering in and out, and then seal it off later. We'll put that in there. All we'll need to pump the hydrogen out and power everything is put in a gas pump made of gold amalgam. Again, we'll just put that there. And we're going to automate this with an atmos sensor so that it only turns on the pump when there's enough hydrogen to be worth pumping. This is very important for making it self-powered. You only want the gas pump to be operating when it's pumping a full packet, because gas pumps are very power inefficient. It takes 240 watts to process 500 grams per second of gas max, which is really bad. So the atmos sensor will only trigger when there's enough gas for it to pump. The gas from this room will flow over here. You can put another gas pump in here if you want, but it's not really necessary. And then we're just going to put a signal switch here. This is going to let you just turn your electrolyzers on and off when you want to, just so you don't have to break into the room again. Because what will happen as well is when the oxygen and the hydrogen separate, they will keep pressuring up infinitely. You don't need to worry about the electrolyzer overpressurizing, because it's always covered in the liquid. It's not going to have any issues. But the result is you're going to have a chamber full of a lot of hydrogen and a chamber down here full of a lot of spare oxygen. So you don't want to break into here again unless you absolutely need to. So that's all going to be sealed off. And then there's also the room down here. Now, normally I just put the oxygen pumps down here, but we're actually going to put in the power equipment as well. So this time what we're going to do is, let's put the gas pumps in first. So again, we're going to make these out of gold amalgam. If you don't have gold amalgam, you may want to use steel, or just make sure the water that you're pumping in isn't any hotter than 75 degrees C. I usually recommend using hotter water so you can delete that extra heat, turning the liquid into gases, but don't do that unless you've got gold amalgam, or you're actively cooling this area, or you're using steel. So we're going to put 4 gas pumps in. This is enough to handle the oxygen output from both electrolyzers. And you'll have some spare oxygen to use for the rest of your productive duplicant space as well. So we'll get it out using these. And then we're also going to shove the power generation equipment down here. And what we're actually going to do is, we're going to seal this off. We're going to put some hydrogen generators in here. We're going to put 2 hydrogen generators in. Again, we're going to make these out of gold amalgam. And then we're going to put some smart batteries in here. These can be made of any refined metal that isn't going to overheat at 75 degrees. So the copper in this case has plus 50 degrees C to its overheat temperature, so that's suitable for this. We'll put those batteries in there. And again, we're going to automate all of these gas pumps, so they only turn on when there's enough oxygen to be worth pumping. We'll put an atmos sensor here. That's just going to plug in to all of these pumps like this. And then we're going to set this to say above 2,000 grams of pressure, just to make sure that we're not getting any half-filled packets. Then we're going to set up some more automation wire for the smart batteries. These just, each one's just going to plug into one generator. There's no point hooking up a jumbo battery in combination with this, because the hydrogen will stop generating power when this battery gets full, and this battery has less capacity than jumbo battery. So I just use 2 smart batteries for this. And we'll set the thresholds on this to 10 and 90. That way there'll be some residual power when this kicks in, so it's never going to completely shut down. And also with the high threshold being 90, that means it's not going to overflow and waste some hydrogen when it's completely full. So all of these little efficiency tips and tricks are there to help make sure that it self-powers as efficiently as possible and that you never have to touch it again. That's pretty much the motto of this build. So now we're just going to connect everything with a conductive wire. In the previous video where we did this build, we built the electrolyzers and gas pumps in columns so we could separate them off on their own little individual wires. You didn't need to make conductive wire. You're going to be a little bit more advanced at this stage when you're actually getting this online than when you're just setting up your first oxygen machine. So I'm just going to assume that you have conductive wire and enough refined metal that it's not going to be an issue. So we're just going to hook everything up. It doesn't particularly matter where you put this. Just going to send the wire down here. And it's going to come off over here, and then that's going to go to where our base is later. And then we're going to want to set up all the pipes. So, let's set up the gas pipes first. So the hydrogen, very simply, is just going to go straight from the hydrogen top floor down to the generators. And because this top floor room will infinitely pressurize, we don't need some extra hydrogen storage capacity, or we don't need to burn it off. We can just leave it in this room until we need it for power. And if you want, you can actually set up a separate gas pump on this side, and that can pump to a different place if you really want to. But I don't find that super necessary. So that's going to go in there, and then these oxygen pumps, what we'll do is we'll take this one and run it up here. That's going to come out here, and then these ones will run over here. So now we have 2 pipes that are getting filled with 1 kilogram per second of oxygen on demand when we need to. So that's what we're going to do. And then you'll actually want the water for these electrolyzers. So there's many different water sources in the game. You might just have a water geyser that produces 95 degrees C water. You might be using 95 degrees C water from your steam turbine outputs. You might be taking a polluted water vent and filtering it and then dumping it in here. It doesn't really matter too much what you're using. You're going to have there's lots of different sources of water in the game. We're just going to use a dev pump for this build just to illustrate it. So this is just set to water, and then we'll run this in here with an insulated pipe. It's going to run underneath here and feed into both electrolyzers. There's plenty of space in this build for your duplicates to run around while they're building it. And then what we'll do as well is, when we're venting out these rooms, what we'll do first, actually, is just temporarily, we'll connect this pump here. We'll put some vents over here. These could be high-pressure gas vents if you have plastic. If not, they'll have to be regular gas vents. And you're just going to want to vacuum out all these rooms. Now, while you're vacuuming this out, it's not going to be self-powered. So you will need a temporary power source, which we'll just do here. Often in my runs, this has been manual generators. It could be something else, like a coal generator with automation, just to bootstrap it. So when the room's completely sealed off, we'll unpause it, and you'll want to set this pressure to below 0. For these 2 things, and then it's going to vent all the gas out of this room. The green seal up above 0. That's what you should actually do. There we go. So now we're going to vent all the gas out of this room, and then it's going to become a vacuum. And you're going to make sure to turn off the electrolyzers before you do this. You want to get rid of any gas that's in these rooms. So we've got a little bit of hydrogen up here, got some carbon dioxide down here. This room is going to be primarily filled with oxygen anyways, so if the only gas left in the room is oxygen, you can stop pumping here. And likewise, if the only gas in this room is hydrogen for some reason, like maybe you built it in a biome that has hydrogen in it, or you've turned on your electrolyzers and you've already got a little bit of hydrogen here. Once all the oxygen's pumped out, you can just turn this off and then set it up to run normally. So we're just going to vacuum this. Vacuuming out rooms takes time, so I'll see you in a little bit. Right, so now we've vacuumed out this room. There's no gases in here, so we'll just take the gas pipes. We'll disconnect this again with the pliers tool. We'll reconnect this down here for the hydrogen. We'll reset this to above 1,000 grams of pressure in the hydrogen room and above 2,000 in the oxygen room. And now we can flip this switch for the electrolyzers, and then when we turn it on, you'll see the hydrogen comes out the top, the oxygen comes out the bottom. You don't need to fill these rooms with specific gases either, it just works. So there you go. You might occasionally see the hydrogen come out here, but it's not going to cause any issues. The oxygen's going to stay down here and going to be nice and well behaved. So this room's going to fill up with the gas, and then we'll be able to start actually powering everything. Yeah, so now the hydrogen pressure is high enough that this is kicked in. We're pumping the hydrogen into the gas generators down here, and this is going to be enough to keep everything topped up. And then once the pressure in here increases again, you'll see the oxygen is going to start pumping out. And we've disconnected the dev generator, so now it's all power positive. But we don't actually need to vent all of this oxygen. What we actually need to do is pump it into the machine. So let's actually set up a gas pipe for that. So what we'll do is we'll remove these vents for now. Also, we replaced Ari with Rowan because Ari was a flatulent dupe, which was not very helpful. Don't put any flatulent dupes in this base. It's not going to work out well for you. So this gas pipe, what we're going to do is we're going to just send it down here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put a little gas bridge here. So it's going to prioritize loading the Somnium synthesizer with the oxygen. And then once the machine is actually loaded, we'll have a bypass come off here, and then that's going to connect back to the rest of the base oxygen. So we'll disconnect that pipe, and we'll connect it up over here. And then this one's just going to be for base oxygen. So we're just going to send this one down here, and then that's going to run along here. And then we've got 2 oxygen pipes that we can use to keep our duplicants happy and to keep the machine happy. And yeah, that's the oxygen half of the Somnium synthesizer problem solved. Now we actually need to set up a little mini base for these duplicants so they can actually produce the dream journals. So I've been working on a little bit of a layout. So first things first, let's actually get Rowan in the pajamas. So this building will spawn next to the sleep machine, the pajama cubby. You can click this button and dispense a pair of pajamas. And Rowan will have a look at this. It takes a little time. You can boost the speed at which Rowan selects a pair of pajamas with the lip workspace buff, but you're only going to be doing this a few times, so I probably wouldn't bother, but you can totally fit a lamp here and a motion sensor here. I mean, whatever. Let me show you. While we're here. He's having a good time having a look at all these different things. Put the motion sensor here, the lamp here. And this is very important in general. You want to set up these lamps so that your duplicants are spending as little time as possible doing anything other than sleeping. There we go. Rowan's picked some pajamas. Now he's got them out. He can put them on. Now the thing is, if your duplicant unequips a pair of pajamas, they will be destroyed. The game doesn't want you just generating mass out of nowhere, I suppose. But Rowan will put these on very quickly. And now you'll see he's got the nodding off effect. Wearing pajamas. This duplicate can now produce dream journals while sleeping, but he has -8 athletics and -10% stamina per cycle. Stamina per cycle isn't huge, but the athletics penalty is. Look how slow Rowan is. He's got the full swagger walk going on. So this is a fresh dupe. So if we have a look at their bio, they've just got the -8 athletics, -80% run speed. This is a big challenge. So There are two sort of thoughts to running this machine. Either you have a small amount of duplicants sleep full time, or you give every duplicant pajamas and they all sleep a little bit more than normal. and you get the dream journals, but all of your dupes are still being productive. You really don't want to do that second one, because that -8 athletics penalty is huge. Even with fully established duplicants, it makes a big difference. And once the machine is active and giving you an extra +5 in athletics, it still doesn't counteract it. The athletics is the best skill bonus from this machine, because it means your duplicants travel to all their tasks faster, and they usually spend more time traveling than actually doing the tasks in the late game. So that's why these pajamas and the specific debuffs are why you want to have a small number of dupes sleeping full time for this to work. But now I've explained that, let's actually build this dedicated mini base. Obviously there's a few different things you can do, but I'm just going to show you how I'd like to lay it out. So first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to use tiles. Tiles give a +25% run speed bonus. This is multiplicative. Unfortunately, this doesn't quite counteract the athletics penalty from the pajamas as much as you'd like, but it is still useful. So we want the run speed bonus to be as high as possible, which means we actually want to use either plastic tiles or metal tiles, ideally. If you have a refined metal volcano set up, metal tiles might be the way to go. If you have Drecos or other plastic production set up, maybe you want to do plastic tiles. In this case, we're going to use plastic tiles, and we're just going to make the whole floor, wherever we want the duplicates to run, plastic. And we're going to do the same for this floor up here. We'll tweak it a little bit later, but you need your duplicates moving as fast as possible to make sure they're consistently generating these journals. Similarly, we're going to use the plastic ladder over the regular ladder because it gives an extra 20% run speed bonus. And what you can even do as well over here is you can actually set up a little fire pole as well, so you can get down this little hop faster. Duplicates move a lot faster when they're on a fire pole going down. And you can make an argument for having a much taller base where your duplicates just go up and down the fire pole a lot. But the run speed bonus on the ladder isn't as high as it is for the tiles, so that means they're spending more time going up the ladder than they would running along. So I like to just have 2 layers in general. Right, so now for the actual rooms. Obviously, the bedroom is very important, and you want it to be as close to everything else as possible, because that's where your duplicates are going to be spending the majority of their time. So, we're going to put some doors over here, and we're just going to use regular cots. They don't have to be anything special. You don't want to use comfy beds. You want there to be as little space that they need to maneuver around as possible, and the comfy beds are much larger than the cots, so we'll just use the cots. We'll use the staycation cots in this case. The dupes are definitely doing a staycation. It doesn't really matter what you make these out of. We're going to put those there, and we're going to finish off the doors here. And now the duplicates are going to go sleep in here. What we definitely want to do is we want to set up some mechatronics. Mechatronics is very important for this, getting this machine working efficiently in general, because you don't want the sleeping duplicates to have to do tasks to get any of this to work. You can either mechanize it or have other duplicates from across your colony come in here and look after these guys. We're going to design it around mechatronics. So we're going to put 2 auto sweepers in here. One's going to go here, and then the other's going to overlap in that middle tile. And in that middle tile, we're going to put a conveyor loader. It doesn't matter what refined metal you make this all out. So that's going to go here, and we're going to set this to everything, and that's going to include dream journals when they start being generated. And what we'll do is we'll literally just put a chute over here, right next to the machine. We'll put another auto sweeper over here, and then this auto sweeper being positioned to the right of this office plant, it can actually reach the middle tile, so that's good enough range for it to fill the machine with dream journals automatically. So we're just going to literally set up this conveyor rail and go over here. And that's all that needs to be done for that. In terms of oxygenation, we're going to put a vent over here as well. Your duplicates are going to be spending the majority of their time in this room breathing in and out. So you'll definitely want a dedicated vent over here. So that your duplicates don't suffocate. If they suffocate, they're not going to generate dream journals while they're catching up their breath. And for that reason, we want to set up a carbon skimmer as well. But what we'll do for now is we'll set up... Yeah, here we go. So we're going to set up the carbon skimmer. That's going to go over here on the other side. Your duplicates generally don't need to access this, but I like to put a carbon skimmer in here just to make sure that the CO2 isn't building up from the duplicates breathing and interrupting their sleep. You got to make sure they don't do that. So we're just going to put that over there. Speaking of plumbing, we're also going to set up the lavatory and the bathroom over here. So the lavatory is going to go here, the sink is going to go here. The duplicates are never going to have to actually go this way, so this could actually just be a wall. This could be the end of where the base is. And I forgot to put the fire pole in. Here's the fire pole. There we go. We'll send that all the way up here. Why not? So this could be the end of the base, and then the rest of your duplicates could just be hanging around and doing stuff over here. But yeah, let's just get rid of all this. So we got the bathroom. We are going to put a light in here just to make sure that the duplicates can actually get the lit workspace bonus when they're on the bathroom. That way they'll spend 15% less time doing their duty, and they can use the extra time to sleep a bit more. So we're going to put the motion sensor here, and we're going to put a ceiling light here, and that way the ceiling light isn't going to reach onto the bed and cause issues. And the other vent we're going to put on the other side of the vent. We're just going to put it here. It doesn't matter too much where you put that, but I'm just going to put it there. So then the gas pipe, we'll just send that around here. Doesn't really matter too much where these are going. But now this is going to make sure the duplicates have plenty of oxygen while they're asleep. So we've got the bathrooms in here. What we're also going to do is we're going to make sure that there's a closed water loop in here so that the duplicates never have to, never get their bathrooms breaks interrupted. So what we'll actually do is we'll put some more doors here, and we're going to put in a water sieve plant combo. So we're going to put the water sieve over here. This is going to filter all of the bathroom material. Yeah, this is going to filter all of the bathroom material back into the sink and the lavatory. But it does require sand as an input, so we're also going to drop off some sand. This will have to be dropped off from outside the base, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a auto sweeper and a conveyor receptacle. If you don't have a conveyor receptacle because of radiation research, you can just use a chute and just get the duplicates to come in here and drop off the sand every now and then, or just get duplicates to come in through a door and drop off sand every now and then. But we're going to fully mechanize this just for reference. So we'll put a dev pump solid here, and we'll just fill this with sand. And that's just going to fill this up, and then the auto sweeper is going to activate and pump it all into here. So next up is the plumbing. So we're going to take the polluted water outputs from the bathroom, and we're going to send them up here. Then they're going to go into the water sieve. Now, the carbon skimmer is also going to feed into this pipe, but we're going to set up a liquid bridge, so the carbon skimmer isn't going to block the bathroom at any point. Minor touch, but something I like to do. And then what we're going to do is we're going to send the clean water around here, and that's going to go back down here, and it's just going to feed into all three machines like this. And then the excess polluted water, because the duplicates will produce an extra 6.7 kilograms per cycle of polluted water from the lavatory, that is going to go down here, and that's going to get fed into a plant, so it's just getting converted to solid matter, and you don't have to worry about it. So we're actually going to put a hydroponic farm here, and the best plant by far for this is the thimbleweed, because it takes up little space, it consumes a lot of polluted water, and the reed fiber is always handy. So we'll just spawn in a thimbleweed seed, and we'll get someone to come plant that later. And to get this all started off from a water point of view, we can actually just take the water pipe from the Somnium synthesizer, where we're feeding it into the electrolyzers for the oxygen. We can just take that water pipe and we can just send it over here. And that can be used to start filling everything up. So we'll just let that do that for a little bit. We'll also plug in the power over here. So obviously we're going to have plenty of hydrogen power being generated over here. So this wire, it doesn't really matter too much what you do with the wire. We're just going to use a conductive wire to hook everything up. And that's just going to run over the top and bottom. And just plug in wherever we need it. So we'll just do something like this in this case. And now all the oxygen's getting vented in here. You can see how absolutely ridiculously slow Rowan is. He's trying to fill the water sieve with sand. It's not quite working. We'll hook up a little conveyor rail for this with the sand, so this gets filled automatically. But I hope this illustrates why you don't want your sleeping dupes to do anything. Very important. So that water's going to go in here, and we'll see this plant start to flourish in a little minute. Right, so that's most of the stuff down here. And what we're going to want to do next is we're going to want to set up the food. So obviously these guys aren't going to be producing any food, so I'm going to assume that you're generating some nice food elsewhere in your colony. And we're just going to be dumping it here for storage. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little 8 wide room here, 8 by 4. This is large enough to be a great hall, which gives your duplicants more morale. And it is actually relevant for these sleepers, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So we're going to put some mess tables in here. 6 will do. We're going to have 6 duplicates. And then we're going to put in the other nice Great Hall things. We're going to put in a... So we're going to put in a party line phone. That's just going to go in the corner. Plug that in. Very easy recreation building to get working. We have excess power, so it makes a lot of sense. That's going to go there. We're also going to put a refrigerator in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to occasionally send food from the main base here. And we're going to use automation to just keep it in the refrigerator so the duplicants can access it when they need to. Because we haven't really shown this in a video before, so I just wanted to show you how you do this. You could set this up with a dedicated freezer for these duplicants alone. Maybe that's a little bit overkill for 6 duplicants. But yes, we'll just set this all up here. So we're going to put in some motion sensors as well, so that the duplicants actually get the lit workspace bonus and all their errands. That is actually very important. And then we're just going to put some lights in. So put 1 light over here, 1 light over here. You do need 2 motion sensors to cover this room, so we might as well just have 2 lights. I'm going to plug in like that. And then we're going to set up the automation. So let's say you have a food source. In this case, we're just going to use nutrient bars just because that's what's currently in here. Oh, actually, we've got spindly grub fruits. Okay, let's use spindly grub fruits. So I'm going to assume you have a little bit of plastic for this, considering we've already used a load of plastic. We're going to use the conveyor meter. So this lets you send an exact amount of material through it before cutting off. And what we'll do is we'll put the conveyor meter here. And then we're going to send this conveyor line down here. So that is going to hook up here. And we're going to set this to whatever amount of food your duplicants eat in the amount of time it takes for the food to spoil in the refrigerator. So you can set this to a fairly low value. I'm just going to set it to 6 for now, but play around with it depending on what duplicants you've got in here. If you've got a bottomless stomach duplicant in here, you might need some more. You might need less. It depends a lot what you're feeding them as well. Some foods have a lot of calories per kilogram, others don't. Only grub fruit has the least calories per kilogram, so you want to set a relatively high number on this. But the important thing is you just limit it to a specific amount such that it doesn't have time to go off in the fridge. So that's going to go there. We're going to put a timer sensor in here as well. Actually, let's put a cycle sensor in here. It doesn't matter too much where this goes, so I'm just actually going to put it in this room. And we're going to hook that up to the reset port so that it resets every day. So set the active duration to... It doesn't really matter what you set it to. We're going to set it to 1%. And that way, it's just going to activate once a day and fill it with the requested amount of food. You can fiddle around with this. It doesn't matter too much, but the important thing is you have a signal that's triggering regularly into the reset port so that food gets sent over. And then... So what we'll do is, let's actually clear these tiles just so I can show you what's going on. So we'll have the conveyor rail go down here, and then let's actually cut this off here and have it sneak up here. So I'm going to assume this is your food production line, where you made your food in the kitchen and it's being sent to your freezer. So before it goes to your freezer, you want it to go past this meter. And then once this meter turns off, all of your food can go to your freezer, which in this case is just going to be the conveyor chute. And that way, most of your food gets stored long term, but some of it will go down here to get eaten in the short term for these guys. And then we're going to set up a auto sweeper down here. Again, it doesn't really matter too much what this is made of. We'll just put that there. And we'll put a conveyor receptacle over here. So this is going to store the food that gets pulled off the conveyor meter. It doesn't matter too much where you put this. I'm just going to put it up in the ceiling because we're not really doing anything there. And then we're going to hook up some more wires. So I'll just go up here. That seems fine. With conductive wire, you don't get any decor penalty. I know I often try and hide it. You don't need to hide conductive wire at all. There's no decor penalty from it. So that's all just going to go there. And now if we actually go in the conveyor rail view, you'll see we've got spinning ground fruits coming out here. 6 kilograms exactly is going to get portioned off here. Going to barely fill this, and then what you want to do is you want to set this to edibles. You want to set this, well, you can keep this at max because you're only sending a specific amount of food via the meter. And then you want to set this to a higher priority than the conveyor receptacle. So that's priority 6 now, which means that the autosweeper is going to grab it from the receptacle. It's going to put it here. And now the rest of the food is going off to your main freezer. And we did a video about how to freeze food consistently and store it. So if you want to see more details on this, go check out that video. And then the final touch, just to actually get the decor going, is we're going to actually put some furniture items in here. Now, if you have an artist dupe, you can get them to come in here and do a blank canvas. You can fit it in this spot. You can move the autosweeper slightly and maybe fit in a landscape canvas if you want. Doesn't matter too much. What I actually like to do with this is I like to put an aeropot in here made of diamond. If you have an oil biome on your asteroid or somewhere nearby, you can just dig up a little bit of diamond, put it in here, and then the building alone is actually going to produce enough decor for it to count as a great hall. And the room is just big enough. So now we have a washroom for the +2 morale. We have a great hall for the +6 morale, and we have a barracks for the +1 morale. So we got our rooms set up over here. And then last but not least, we're going to get some extra morale in here. We're going to fit a little recreation room in here. You can do what you want buildings-wise in here, but we're just going to put it in a jukebox because that's a relatively accessible building that's not usually causing a huge pain. We'll just put this in here. We'll set up another lamp for this. Doesn't matter too much where you put it. Just make sure that the range is covering the automation port. That's the only relevant tile when the duplicates are using buildings, is the automation port. Otherwise known as the tile where, when you're moving it around the build menu, that's where it is. So there's a useful tip for you. We'll plug in the light. That's just going to plug up here. Automation wire again. And you'll want a decor item in here, so we can just finish all of this off with some ceiling trim. Doesn't have to be anything super fancy. You'll want to make this out of granite to get the extra decor, though. And you can just ceiling trim all of these rooms up here. No issues. And then we'll just suppress notifications on these. And now we've got the recreation room. And that's pretty much the whole build. This is a compact base that is supplied entirely by mechatronics and doesn't require any outside intervention, and the duplicant can just relax all day, provided you have food coming in from your productive base, you have some sand coming from somewhere, and you have the input water to actually run your spawn. You can see we've got the hydrogen is still building up in here, we've got more oxygen building up in here. This is going to keep running forever. So now the last thing to do is actually add the rest of the duplicates. So we'll do that, and I'll see you in a minute. So we have 5 more duplicates now. Everyone's going to bed. We need to dispense 5 more sets of pajamas. But before we do that, or while we're doing that, because you have to do each one manually, and it's very annoying. While we're doing that, I'll talk about schedules. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set these guys on sleep-only schedules. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to give each duplicate their own separate schedule, so their downtime's at a different time of day. And this is so that they can all use the bathroom without getting in each other's way. If they're getting in each other's way, waiting for the bathroom, they're going to interrupt their sleep, and you're not going to get enough dream journals. So what we'll do is we'll give everyone a time for now. We'll give them a little bit of downtime. So let's give them 3 blocks up here. Dispense another set of pajamas. And then we'll make 5 more schedules. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 for each guy. It doesn't really matter whether it's early bird or night owl for these duplicates, because they're not really doing anything productive. So what I like to do is I like to set 3 scheduled blocks of downtime and then leave 1 before the next batch. And that way there's a transition period where the duplicate's going to bed during this one. They're running to the bed from whatever they were doing. And then the next duplicate wakes up. So that 1 schedule block gap is quite useful. And also it means with 6 duplicates you can set the schedule blocks like this so they all line up neatly. And then we'll just move each duplicate across here. This will also give them each 2 morale from excess downtime. Which is not a lot, but it's good enough. So let's see, who's left? Lindsay. There we go. So now everyone's on their own sleep-only schedule. You can see Rowan is actually starting to generate some dream journals because he's actually put the pajamas on. And if we click on him, you'll see Dreaming. Dream Journal will be ready in 255 seconds. This starts at 300, and I did test this. I thought this was going to decrease with the lit workspace bonus if you had a nyctophobic dupe. I've myth-busted that. It doesn't work because it's a fixed duration. Even though it's a yellow bar here, it's a fixed duration errand. So you can't make more dream journals with nyctophobic dupes, unfortunately. But yes, now we just have to get everyone in pajamas, and then we'll see what the machine does. One more thing I would suggest, while you're getting all of the pajamas out, don't equip them to your sleeping dupes one at a time. Get all of the pajamas out first, and then equip them all at the same time. So your duplicates aren't spending ages running to and back from the pajamas to dispense them while they're wearing pajamas. Obviously, if you have other dupes running around your base, and they're the ones dispensing pajamas, it doesn't make that big of a difference. But if you're relying on these guys and they're already isolated, then definitely don't get them all wearing pajamas until the very end. Right, so now all 6 duplicates are wearing pajamas, and you can see how ungodly slow they are. They're currently getting the full -8 athletics from this, so you can see why we've thought about optimizing the tile, run speed, etc. for these guys. Now, the good thing is, once this is on, and they've generated the minimum amount of dream journals of 25, they need to actually run this thing. 5 of that athletics penalty will be cancelled out by the buff when it's actually active. But we still need a duplicate to activate the machine. So Lindsay is going to come along and quickly activate the machine. Again, you probably want to activate this when they're not wearing the pajamas, but it doesn't take too long. So now this is spinning up. We don't need this to be a particularly high priority because it's just going to be fed automatically. It doesn't require the oxygen until it's actually fully activated. So this oxygen pipe is just backed up at the moment, and all the oxygen is just dumping into the base. So that's not really an issue. And now, we just need to wait for the duplicates to sleep long enough to generate all of these journals. And what we've done with our schedules is such that you should have 5 dupes continuously sleeping at all times. We have interrupted these dupes a little bit, just with yellow alerts and whatnot, so only 4 of them are at the moment. But we'll keep an eye on it. You don't have to have them generating at full throughput while they've got the full athletics penalty. You just need to reach 25 dream journals to actually start the machine up. So we'll come back once the first dream journal's been generated. So, we now have a dream journal. It's a book. We have 2 books. Once they're generated, you want to set this to all. And now the auto sweepers will pick them up. And the automation will deliver the books to their desired location, which is the big brain machine. And as this fills with books, the little brains in jars are going to start levitating as well. But it's going to take a little minute. You would expect it, once the duplicates are on their schedule, for it to take about 2.5 cycles for it to fill up with dream journals. It's about the timing you're sort of going for. Yeah, look. You'll see the brains turn on. There's brain number 1. And again, you can see the number of books you've got in here in this little gauge. So it's quite handy. So yeah, I'll see you in about 2 cycles. So, one other thing I forgot to bring up. The reason why you want these guys to have fairly high morale is overjoyed responses. When duplicates have a higher morale, up to 20 points higher than their morale requirement, they will get a chance up to 5% to have their overjoyed response trigger. And one of the overjoyed responses is being a sparkle streaker. And if a duplicate is sparkle streaking, they're going to have a large athletics bonus, and anyone they run past is also going to have a large athletics bonus, which is going to make the downtime much more efficient for these guys. They're going to get more morale boosting done, they're going to go to the bathroom and stuff more efficiently. So if you're umming and ahhing about which new dupes to use in your sleep hotel, I would recommend Sparkle Streakers specifically for the athletics bonus. It's pretty good. Alternatively, what you can do as well is, if you have a load of balloon artists, you can actually fit 1 extra duplicate into such a setup like this, have 7 beds, have 7 mess tables, etc., and let your other dupes come in and put this near your printing pod. so that your balloon artist dupes will hand out balloons on their downtime, because they just have to stand still for that. And then they're getting constantly overjoyed because they don't actually have any skill points, because they don't need to do any skills. And then the rest of your duplicates are getting all the balloon buddy bonuses to their various attributes. So that could be quite powerful as well. I haven't done that yet, but I could definitely see that being something worth doing. But I generally recommend just using Sparkle Streakers and keeping them on their own. So we've been here for a while. We're just about to go on to Cycle 5. The duplicates have one more batch of Dream Journals to do. You can see many of the brains in this machine are floating now. It's getting pretty close to actually operating. And yeah, again, when you've got the duplicates in here long term, you're going to have some carbon dioxide build up, and that's why you've got the skimmer. Because if they get interrupted in their sleep because of suffocation, they're not generating dream journals while they're suffocating. So that's why I have this in here with the water sieve. And that's what I like to do. We've got another book being delivered. We've got 4 out of 5 brains. 4 out of 5 brains ain't bad. We have an interesting glitch on the book texture there. There are a few little visual glitches related to this stuff, but nothing that actually affects the gameplay. It looks like we're almost there. We're almost at the big moment. Anticipation is killing me. There we go. We've got the last few books on the way. One more book is required, and then we got the big brain. There we go. It's big brain time. Story trait complete. There we go. Meeting the initial quota of dream content analysis has triggered a surge of electromagnetic activity that appears to be enhancing performance of duplicates everywhere. If we can keep it fueled with dream journals, perhaps we'll continue to reap this benefit. And you also get the toy plane artifact. Unlock maximum aptitude mode. There you go. Now this little crystal in the middle is moving up and down. And now we'll notice the oxygen's actually being consumed from this pipe, which is why this bridge is important. So there we go. You can look at this machine and you can see it's got an analyzing dreams timer on it that counts down. Each dream journal is worth 60 seconds. And what you should end up with, if everything's working correctly, is you should end up with a small pile of dream journals here. That's a sign that your duplicates are sleeping slightly more than necessary. It shouldn't be a big pile, because then that's a sign they're sleeping too much and they're not getting around to what else they're doing. But yeah, here's a little model plane artifact. It's not huge. Yeah, here we are. Small amount of decor. You can put that on a pedestal somewhere. That's just the reward you get for doing the story trait. And now, if we watch these duplicates for a bit, we'll have a look at their stats. They've got the maximum aptitude mode. We've got +5 athletics, which means they've actually only got -3 athletics now. And now they're actually wandering around at a reasonable speed. The difference between -80% run speed and -30% run speed is gigantic. So now they're running as fast as we want them to. And the machine should run a lot more efficiently in general. Now you should always see 5 duplicates sleeping at once, and then 1 other duplicate going around doing their various errands. Their downtime stuff. And that's a sign that everything's going to be working efficiently. And the brain machine will pick up the dream journals once they drop down. If it's got more than 1,440 seconds left in the clock, it won't pick them up yet. In this case, these duplicates are all more or less in sync. So we'd expect this timer to drop down and then build back up. But it doesn't matter. So long as it doesn't hit 0, you're going to continuously get the bonus. And so long as the oxygen doesn't run out, you're going to continuously get the bonus. But with such a setup here, provided that the water pumping from wherever your water source is doesn't run out, you're not going to have too many issues. Now, one thing I would say is you do need to cool this down. At the moment, all the oxygen is coming out at about 75 degrees C, and eventually this will all heat up. So you're going to need to cool it down somehow. We did recommend the ice maker in a recent video. That got buffed a lot with the Frosted Planet Pack update. So you can just have duplicates use ice makers and cool down the base that way if you're not that fussed. But if you've got some other cooling loops set up, you could use thermo aquatuners or even thermo regulators if you're really desperate. But just make sure you're cooling it down a little bit, otherwise these guys are going to overheat. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. That's the whole build. Obviously, you don't have to do it exactly as I've done it. This is just illustrating the sort of things that you want to look out for. Above all else, you want to just prioritize having these guys in their own little environment where you don't have to interact with them, and you can just focus on the rest of what you're doing without having to micromanage these guys ever again. So make sure that the oxygen is consistent. Make sure, if you've got a SPOM, make sure that you've got some battery storage, and that it's all getting powered properly. Make sure that the oxygen isn't interrupted. Make sure they're not suffocating down here with the carbon skimmer. And yeah, just make sure they're in good spirits and getting overjoyed bonuses so they get extra athletics if they really feel like it. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how you guys use the sleep machine. Do you do it with this focused little hotel where you just have the sleeping duplicates, or do you do something more general where you just have more dupes wearing pajamas and they sleep less often? Interested to see how you guys mix it up a little bit, because this build doesn't have to be super specific. It's just a little thing that you can work on. Your own little pillbox hotel for these guys. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. If you like what you've seen here in this video today, feel free to like the video and subscribe for more Oxygen Not Included build-related content. We do have a Twitch where we stream regularly on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays now. We're currently doing the Frosty Planet pack with the Blasted series. Seed, we have our sleep machine up. It's not quite this neat, but it is working and helping everyone out. And it's a lot of fun, so come join in with that if you feel like it. We also have the Discord where we talk about Oxygen Not Included in other games. If you have any questions on there, feel free to ask them there and someone else will have an answer usually. But yeah, hopefully this video helps you sleep well. And I'll let Whiskers take it away. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now.
Whiskers sends thanks to the following Twitch subscribers and YouTube members: 999999999, Ashak, Fox.gif, Gamic6, Grey Area, Ion Elgis, It's Chilly Chilly, MC Games, Neo Deus Machina, Porcelet, Sinister Plank, Sinan XO, Squillibob, and Uglavisk.